I should not have to say this, but in our hypocritical society and more righteous indignation than righteousness and morality, I must I must talk about this. No politician or anyone should fear for their life because of the possibility of being gunned down or assassinated. Most of the time, our government successfully thwarts the potential assassination of politicians. We must not forget the thwarting of the kidnapping and harming plot of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer by right wing militias. Unfortunately, Trump's Secret Service seemed to have failed him, even though they had time to act. That's why a lot of people are saying, is this stuff staged? Is this stuff staged? Honestly, I don't think it is. I think this was gross incompetence. 400 yards away on the top of a building with a slight incline, where were the binoculars scanning those areas that could be vulnerable? So yeah, I think that I don't think it was staged. I think that was a gross incompetence, or either gross incompetence or thinking, well, we are in red territory and these are places where they love us. We are safe. Remember during the January 6th insurrection, remember what happened? Remember that Donald Trump told them, we don't need any magnetometers, right? Because these people with AR-15s in this on the Washington Mall, they are our people. So he didn't think he needed to be protected for people coming into the area with guns or not. All of this that I'm saying is very well documented. Everything that I will speak about is very well documented. No if, buts, no maybes, no gray areas. Even if not most times, too often these purveyors of violence, mainly on the right, are successful. The attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, the attack on Bernie Sanders' office, the shooting of former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, and the shooting of Steve Scalise, to mention a few. I am starting to detect the false equivalence call to action. If we consent to it, it will be the kiss of death, not only in this election, but in the future, because we will have ceded the moral ground that progressives have codified. I want to repeat, if we coalesce and make this stuff look like a false equivalent, it's the one side is talking like this, the other side. That's not what is occurring at all. No false equivalence here. And if you coalesce to it the way the media is trying to low down the temperature, bring down the temperature is only high on one side. It's only one side who believe in arming people. It's only one side who believe having AR-15s and bazookas and all that kind of stuff is okay. It's only one side going out and say, if I lose, there will be a bloodbath. It's only one side that had a January 6th. Let's not fall into a false equivalence crap. Let's continue moving forward on the facts. Let's continue moving forward by telling Americans the unadulterated truth. Let's continue moving forward by letting folks know exactly what it means when Democrats and progressives get elected, how we are going to change your life, how we are going to ensure that you have equal access to success. Let's not allow distractions. We are the ones that support life, freedom in all respects, nonviolence, equity, inclusion, and much more that is anathema to the leadership of the right that is then permeated to its base. Specifically, it is ludicrous for Democrats and progressives to feel or accept any responsibility for a young, registered Republican man using an AR-15 style rifle to attempt to take the life of Donald Trump. We must find causality that is not difficult if we stop trying to play false equivalence and false and balanced game. Blame is not hard to ascertain. The right has established a culture not of compromise, but of my way or the gun way. The preponderance of the evidence is clear. January 6th is clear. Armed militias, it's clear. When was the last time you've seen a whole bunch of lefties running around with guns and AR-15s and bazookas in the street to show that they have Second Amendment rights? And what the hell do you do with these things that you have on your shoulder? The first person that scares you, you shoot them? Well, we know what that looks like. It looks like Austin. While one can find isolated incidents from a few with an affinity for the left, the converse on the right is countless. From the murderer in Austin, Daniel Perry, who gunned down an innocent man in a BLM protest that a corrupt Texas Governor Greg Abbott pardoned, to January 6th, where Trump's MAGA enforcers caused the deaths and injuries of scores of police and officers and others. Of course, there is a constancy of mass killing with assault weapons that most regular guns, because of a right-wing culture of virtually unadulterated access to firearms, guns, or Second Amendment rights. We want to be able to have guns, no checks, no nothing. We want the freedom. Here in Texas, anybody can go get a gun, have it in their car. So what has increased in Texas, unlike in blue states, the murder rate has increased. All these rates have increased. Again, look it up. Red state versus blue state murder rates. All these things are true. Provable, verifiable. Don't listen to my words. Look it up. We should not forget the rhetoric from prominent MAGA and right-wing voices, from former president himself to Steve Bannon, and the head of the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, among many others. These guys are stoking their base. And these guys are stoking those with weak minds, right? And, there are a lot of Republicans that have abandoned Donald Trump. And when they see Donald Trump coming ahead, what is their response? They don't have the progressive response. After all, again, it seemed like this guy who shot the president, or the former president, they said in 1920 something, he gave $15 to a progressive. Actually, it's one of those false groups that collects a lot of money and spend it themselves. But what I'm saying, when you take a look at what their behavior when it comes to solving problems is not sitting down and talking. Hey, when I wrote the book, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Friends and Neighbors, it wasn't about saying how to shoot my friends and neighbors or how to force my friends and neighbors. Anybody who listens to politics done right, anybody who is in our chats knows that we have 30 to 40% conservatives and MAGAs that permeates our being, because they know they're heard, because they know it's not about violence, it's about open dialogue and making people speak and understanding. And even if we disagree, understanding that you still have a brother, a mother, a sister, and folks that we know you love. We know what it's all about. I felt sick feeling. I was in Baltimore at the conference, the Netroots Nation conference, and this shooting occurred right after right during the plenary, the ending plenary. And I wish a shooting hadn't happened at all, but I wish we had information then so that we could have gotten on stage and say some of the things that I'm saying right here. I felt that sick feeling as I listened to the news and watched Democrat after Democrat acquiesce to the need for both sides to tone down the rhetoric. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? When Martha Raddatz, a host generally sympathetic to Republicans, specifically called out Trump, this false equivalence has gone too far. This morning on this week, meaning yesterday morning on this week, she said the following. We are just looking back this morning at some of the things that former President Trump has said, Raddatz noted. He warned last March of potential death and destruction if he were charged by the Manhattan District Attorney. Our country is being destroyed as they tell us to be peaceful. Trump in January. warned of bedlam in the country if the criminal charges against him succeeded. And of course, in March, he said, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. That it's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be least of it. Those are indeed his words. And you have heard it from supporters as well. Heritage Foundation President Roberts was not much different in his rhetoric. He declared himself an insurrectionist open to violence based on the following statements, which was, we are in process of the second American Revolution, he said, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. Whoever did this, the shooter has done so much damage to the left, Maher said. But before I say that, Bill Maher also played the false equivalent crap. I don't know what has gotten into Bill Maher these days. It's as if because he has lost so many progressive voters, he's trying to attract a new audience. Whoever did this, the shooter has done so much damage to the left, Maher said. The left has lost a lot moral high ground in that you are the nonviolent people, and the liberals don't shoot people. Liberals don't solve that way. Yeah. You got half right. Progressives don't believe in violence. Progressives don't believe in the unadulterated arming of America with guns. So you're right, and we remain that way. That a young Republican man with an AR-15, that is a full representation of the right. Republican with an AR-15 shot the president, and somehow Bill Maher wants to attach that to somehow a progressive thing. When I talk about false equivalence, in this case, it's a lying equivalence. As I mentioned above, violence on the left in our times has been an aberration, while a constancy for the right. This must be pointed out. Maybe Maher should have waited a bit so he could have found out that the shooter was a registered Republican in a county that voted 2-1 for Trump. I felt compelled to send Bill Maher a tweet, so I sent him the following. Again, Bill Maher proves he was but a faux progressive. He claims that somehow a young Republican man with an AR-15 style rifle attempting to assassinate Trump has caused the left has lost a lot of moral high ground. He is pandering to MAGA for views. You don't lose a higher ground when it's neither your ideology nor the people you represent who is affecting violence, murder, and what's in between. That's not the case. I implore Democrats and progressives not to cave to play nice lest they get taken to the cleaners. In other words, lose big. It is not our rhetoric that promotes violence. It is not our rhetoric that in the aggregate lacks civility. When the truth describing uncivil, unethical, immoral, treasonous, and other behaviors existential to what this country has become seem to be uncivil, it isn't because they are doing what they're doing reflected. It's because what the people who we're describing are doing something that is uncivil, doing something that is wrong, doing something that is unethical, doing something that is treasonous, doing something that is immoral. And if we call that out, it's not us being uncivil. It is just us being truthful. It is because what they're doing reflect it. We owe the unadulterated truth to the American people. They depend on our policies, and we cannot allow false equivalencies and cowardice to enable Donald Trump, a wannabe autocrat, fascist, and provable chain liar, to go unchecked, lest we cede the 2024 election and fail Americans. End of the blog. Now, I want to point this out, folks, because this is very important. Pointing out that, yes, Donald Trump is a serial liar. That's not uncivil. that is telling the truth in the most kind way possible. That saying, Donald Trump is an autocrat, is not uncivil. It is saying what he has said himself, that everybody who is going to vote must know. That Donald Trump is a fascist. It is something we know. He's a Mein Kampf reader. He's a person who the items he discussed in the way he wants to impose policy is directly proportional to that which is fascist. None of those statements are uncivil. They are simply the provable truth. And the only way Americans can make a sensible, qualified vote is if we don't leave the truth to happenstance. We must tell the truth, unadulterated truth, no matter what side you are on. The truth must reign.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.